Hey guys, Super Retrocade here. So I'm making a little different video today. I generally don't get into like collectible stuff as much as get into retro gaming stuff that you can actually use and play. But I bought this Nintendo 64 sign that's really cool. So what this sign is this was originally made by Nintendo, and it was sent to stores to promote the Nintendo 64 on its release. So this is something that like store owners got. Let me turn the lights on here real quick. So this is like let me turn the light off. So this is like what store owners would have got to promote the Nintendo 64. So this was something that like people would see through the window, and it's two-sided here. There's the back side and there's the front side, but inside of here there is a ballast with a fluorescent light, and this side lights up, but the back side doesn't. And then typically what they would do is I have these two hooks, and these two hooks would go in here, and then you'd be able to hang this, so you could like hang it in a window. So I bought this online or on eBay from according to the eBay listing, it was from like a mom and pop store where they claimed that they'd been in business for like 25 years and had this sign from when the Nintendo 64 was released. And on the bottom of it, it has a cool manufactured by Nintendo sticker on it. And they claimed that they had this in their store back when it was released, and it's just kind of been sitting around, and they had it for sale. And I kind of jumped on it because the price wasn't too bad and it was in very good shape. So on the front side, it's nearly perfect, other than there was like one spot on this N where there was a little bit missing. That was kind of driving me nuts. Like when it was on, you could see it. Let me see if we can see it in the camera. Yeah, we can't really make it out. But on this end, there was a spot where you could like see through. So I actually took a Sharpie and I just kind of dabbed it in a little bit, because seeing the clear light through it was kind of driving me nuts. So now that I did this Sharpie, if you're about 3 feet away, you can't tell that I Sharpied it. I took a couple pieces of paper and marked with different Sharpies until I found the best match. So another interesting thing with this is it being so old and it having a ballast. I did a lot of research about ballasts, and what I found out is, inside of here there's a 36-inch fluorescent bulb, and they actually sent it without a bulb. So I went to Lowe's and bought a bulb for like $5, which fit in here perfectly. And the ballast, from my understanding, so what a ballast is inside of here there's a circuit board that regulates the AC current coming into here, and it steps it down so that the bulb will work. And I'm not sure whether or not it rectifies the AC electricity from the circuit or from the outlet into DC, or whether it just feeds regulated AC. I'm not sure. But a lot of times with these ballasts, they can go bad, or they'll start to not fire up immediately when the ballasts start to go. And I mean, you can replace a ballast or you can bypass a ballast. So what I also have done is I also bought, this came today, this is an LED 36-inch fluorescent light. And the way that this LED one works is you can operate this one with or without a ballast. So it has an L and N right here. So if you take the ballast out, you can run the positive and negative into this side, assuming that you have tombstones that aren't one piece. You need a tombstone that's two pieces on this side. And then if you bypass the ballast, it'll just be dead over here. But the cool thing about this LED bulb is it works with or without a ballast. So if you bypass the ballast and wire them both here, it'll work straight out of the wall. But if you leave the ballast in here, it should use one here and one here, just like your typical tube would, to work as an LED. Now, I watched a lot of videos on YouTube about outfitting LED bulbs in ballasts. And one of the interesting things that I found was there's a guy claiming that if you left the ballast inside of one of these fixtures and stuck an LED in there, he claimed that even though it will reduce the amount of heat, he claimed that the ballast would consume as much electricity from the wall as if you had a regular bulb in there. So my understanding of what he was saying was, like right now I have a device called a kilowatt plugged in. So I'm able to measure how many watts are being consumed by this sign right now. So right now I know that this sign is consuming 35 watts an hour. So what he was saying is if you leave the ballast in there to drive an LED, it'll still consume 35 watts an hour. But if I bypass the ballast, then it will consume far less. So this bulb is only a 16 watt hour. So my understanding is if I hook this up, it should only consume 16, but it should have the same light output or similar light output, because I'm not sure exactly. See, 3500K is actually a color. This actually doesn't say how many lumens it is. I believe they're very similar lumens, because I think that this 16 watt is supposed to be equivalent to like a 30 watt, and what I have in there right now is a 35 watt. And this is actually a little too bright for what I would typically want in a room. So I'm actually hoping that this LED is not quite as bright, and I'm hoping that it consumes a lot less power. Because the other thing that I could do is I could stick a diffuser behind the sign here to kind of dim it a little bit, but I don't really want to mess with that. So the way that this works, the way that this comes apart is on, let my camera adjust here. On each side, there's 3 screws, and I've already taken those screws off so that these side panels just come off. And I'm gonna be I might be a little slow with this, and I'm gonna be very careful with it. And I'm actually gonna unplug it. Okay, now for this next part, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put the camera back up on the tripod, and I'm gonna take off my mic for a second because I wanna be very careful with this plexiglass as I take it out. Okay, so I just laid that face up on my couch so that it doesn't get scratched or anything. So then what you can see in here is you can see the ballast, or not the ballast, you can see the fluorescent light in here. So this is the new one, and it's still a little warm from being on, not bad, but. And I actually just looked at the box for this LED one. This LED one is actually a 25 watt equivalent. So I'm thinking 16 watts is supposed to be equivalent to a 25 watt, and this one is a 35 watt. So this should definitely not be quite as bright. So I'm gonna twist this one and take it out of here. Try not to break anything. Okay, so I just got the fluorescent light out. So I'm just gonna set that behind it. And then this LED one, there's this side. I don't know, let me see if you can see that. I don't know, I don't think you can read it, but it says L and N over here. So I know that this is the left side. So I don't know if it matters when I'm using a ballast, but I know that that's left, so I'm gonna treat it like it's left. So let me see here. So it fit in pretty good, and then I just twist it. Not sure which way it only goes one way, so now that's in there. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna go over here and turn it on once before I put it back together. Wow, that is super dim. So that's only consuming 3 watts. I mean, it looks like a pretty even light, but I'm not sure that it's working properly, because that is very dim. I don't know if that's even going to have much of an effect in there. Maybe I'll power the lights off and see what I'm going to turn the lights off, and I'm going to see how prominent it is. Definitely a lot dimmer. So since it's only consuming 3 watts, and I think it should be consuming at least 16, this is actually a 2-pack, and I'm wondering maybe something happened in shipping. So I'm gonna grab the other bulb and try putting the other bulb in here. And I'm going to try not to break anything. There we go. So this bulb I actually tried putting in facing backwards, and it seemed to be the same brightness. So let me try putting it in the way I had the other one. So that must just be how dim these are. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put the marquee back in it, and we'll see how that looks. So this is what it looks like with the LED in it. So that's just, I don't know. I mean, it's pretty weak, but it actually might be better. You know, if you're gaming in a room, it won't be as distracting. But it definitely really pops with the fluorescent light in it. I think I'm probably gonna I'm probably gonna find either an LED that's a little more powerful, or I'm gonna find some sort of diffuser or something to put on the fluorescent, or I might just go with the fluorescent because the sign, it just doesn't have the wow factor when it's this dim, you know. So I'm gonna put the fluorescent back in here. So while I'm monkeying around with this, I'll just kind of fill you in. So after I was done making this video, I went back to the Amazon listing for this bulb, or for these LED bulbs, and I just kind of looked through the reviews and through the questions and just kind of searched on the word dim. And what I found was, in one of the Amazon reviews, they cited that if you have an incompatible ballast, you'll get like 1/4 of the brightness output of the LED bulb. So I think that's what was going on here, is that I didn't have a compatible ballast. So right now I'm just gonna stick with the regular fluorescent bulb, because I don't really want to modify this sign, because I kind of looked at what I'd have to do a ballast bypass, and I would actually have to cut off some of the screws and replace some screws and stuff. So I think if I want to dim it, probably my next route would be putting some sort of light diffuser behind the sign, but in front of the bulb. So that's just kind of an explanation of what's going on. Ooh. See, I'm trying to focus here. There we go. So that's my Nintendo 64 store sign. So it's just a pretty cool sign that I wanted. And I don't know, that's a little piece of history. So this Super Retrocade, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you found something interesting from it. You know, I thought this was kind of cool, you know, learning about fluorescent light fixtures and ballasts. You know, at work we have them all over the ceiling, but I never really knew much about them before. It's too bad that my LED lights were so dim. I think right now I'm just gonna stick with the fluorescent. Another cool thing that I was thinking about doing is the light switch for this is on the back of it. And I was thinking it'd be cool if I just use like a, you know, an outlet switch, you know, like a device at the outlet that will toggle, you know, power to it instead of using the light on the back. Because then I could use like a remote button or even an app on your phone to turn it on and off. I would rather use, like, I have these surge protectors that like have wireless switches, so I'd probably use one of those so that I could control whether it's on or off, and then have it, you know, up on a shelf up high or hanging somewhere. So this Super Retrocade, thanks for watching. Okay guys, so it's the next day, and this was kind of bothering me that the LED light didn't work. So what I did last night is I kind of looked into it, and you know, how I would get this open so that I could bypass the ballast to drive this LED light, because it appears that these lights are incompatible with the ballast that's in here. So I found that there were these 4 screws that weren't really screws. They were like, you put them in there and then they kind of like mushroom out. So these guys were really a pain to get out. But this morning I had one of my buddies help me drill them out, and he was able to drill them out without damaging anything. So then I was able to get this backing out, and I was able to disconnect the ballast. And then I took my multimeter on the continuity setting, and I checked the tombstones, because there's two versions of tombstones. There's shunted and unshunted. And that just means like they're either shorted or unshorted, like they're one piece in here or two pieces. And I made sure that this was actually two pieces. And then I wired it up to bypass the ballast so that I have neutral up here and whatever down here, or I don't know, it's like positive and negative, and then I have it grounded to the chassis. And I have it hooked up now where it'll drive the LED at its full brightness, which this right now actually looks brighter to me than the fluorescent bulb, which has me a little concerned, because one of the reasons I wanted to do this LED was not only for, you know, less heat, less power consumption, but it's also like rated at 1600 lumens, where that fluorescent tube was like 1850 lumens. So I'm hoping that it's not quite as bright once I get it all together. I still have my kilowatt in the wall. So this is a 16 watt LED bulb, but for whatever reason I'm measuring 14 watts at the outlet. So when I had the fluorescent bulb in there, it was consuming 35 watts per hour. And now with the LED in there, it's consuming 14 watts per hour. So now this guy is back together, being driven directly by the LED light strip, or the LED, I don't know what you'd call it, tube light without a ballast. So I think it's slightly dimmer. It's slightly dimmer, but it still seems to pop. So I'm pretty happy with this. So this is Super Retrocade. Thanks for watching.